Studentistas, and welcome to everyone to UE DSC's podcast series. And today is our third episode for this series. And for this episode, we are going to talk about mental, which is very timely for this month because October is considered Depression and Mental Health Awareness Month. And we have four guests that we'll be chatting with regarding about mental health. And with that, let me introduce to you our guests. First up, we would like to introduce Louise Manderico. She's a dentistry student from the College of Dentistry, old curriculum, and she has been diagnosed with anxiety and clinically diagnosed with anxiety. Hi!
Hello po.
Ayan. And our second guest, aside from being a second-year dentistry student, she is also a social media manager, currently an intern at a consulting firm here in the Philippines. She also is a design lead of Quarter Life Bliss podcast, also a volunteer of Passion Project Organization, a non-government organization that advocates for the welfare of stray dogs here in the Philippines. Let's all welcome Ali Lanuzga. Hi, Ali.
Hi, everyone.
Ayan. Next up is a UE Dentistry second-year student at ito, UE Tanyaki scholar lang naman. Ayan. Let's all welcome Fran Lalota.
And hi guys, it's an honor to be invited here.
Honor is as well with us. And of course, we would like to welcome a licensed physical therapist and currently teaches general anatomy at UE College of Dentistry. Let's all welcome Ma'am Rachel and Cristobal. And our last guest is a licensed physical therapist and currently teaches general anatomy at UE College of Dentistry. Let's all welcome Ma'am Rachel and Cristobal.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ma'am, as well, for accepting our invitation. So, again, everyone, this would be our set of guests for today. And to start off with our podcast or for our episode for today, ayan, we'll have an icebreaker muna. Para naman medyo kalma lang tayo ng konti. And ito nga ang pinaka medyo popular na ginagawa na namin for the last couple of episodes is Never Have I Ever. Ayan. Okay, I hope everyone is all set. So, let's get it on. First, ayan. Never have I ever self-diagnosed regarding my mental health. Never have I ever self-diagnosed regarding my mental health. So, ayan. So, si Ali, si Ma'am Rachel, and si Fran, I have never. And also, ayan, si Lou, ayan, si Lou is I have. Okay. So, let's talk about the yung naiiba. Ayan. Let's talk to Lou. So, Lou,
Hello.
okay lang. Well, dito hot seating. It's just we would like to understand. So, if you have self-diagnosed yourself, how did you do it? What were your reference?
Well, basically, first of all, I was in high school and I self-diagnosed because I looked it up in the internet, Google, Dr. Google, which is wrong, and I know that. But, there are days when I feel like it is what it was. I thought I had depression. I thought I was depressed because I didn't have the drive to do anything. I slept with the wrong sleeping patterns. I really felt like that's basically how I thought that I had depression. But yeah,
I see. So,
I myself diagnosed it.
ayan. Well, I think everyone naman is somewhat guilty at a particular point in our lives that when we want to check with something, the very first thing that we would be using is Google, di ba? Like Google is for everything, di ba? How about for Ali and Fran? What made you decide to not self-diagnose?
Me siguro it comes from the ano din, awareness that the internet is accessible to everyone. So not all information that we see online is factual and relevant. So we really have to be cautious when it comes to parang searching symptoms online, ganyan. Kasi yun nga, like what I've mentioned earlier, di ba like sa Wikipedia, it can be as, parang easily edited by anyone. So ayun, for me siguro, it really boils down from awareness din.
Oh, that's so funny, no? Sometimes people would use Wikipedia as a reference, where in fact, ang daming mali sa Wikipedia na yun nga, it can be actually edited by almost everyone, di ba? So kung gusto nilang maglagay doon ng false information, then that could be very dangerous then, di ba? How about you, Fran?
Along the same lines as Ali din po. Pero for me, it's more on the lack of awareness regarding mental illnesses. So maybe I have experienced symptoms but didn't really mind to search or find information regarding about it po.
I see. So, Ma'am Rachel, how is self-diagnosing um how dangerous it is to actually self-diagnose?
Okay. Given the availability of information online, a lot of people are tempted to just Google their symptoms and check if this particular disease is what they're experiencing. The truth is, it's a lot more dangerous than we are aware of because we are trying to we are trying to create some fire that shouldn't be that should not exist. What I mean is it creates more anxiety on your part because say for example what you have read on Google matches what you are experiencing, then you are giving yourself undue stress and anxiety just because of what you have read. As a medical practitioner, since I am a physical therapist, I am aware of a certain hierarchy when it comes to our practices. There are specialists that would be able to tell us that are more appropriate to tell us if this is the particular diagnosis that we have. So that's why there are doctors for that. And even for doctors, there are still specialization on their part. You cannot just make consultations on someone that you know just because you're having symptoms like for example you have nausea or you have occurrences where you're experiencing fainting and then suddenly you associate it with um, lack of sleep and then lack of social involvement in the past few days, and then you suddenly diagnose yourself with depression. It doesn't really help because like what I mentioned, there are more appropriate specialists for that you should consult, and I think they are readily available as well. They will be able to provide you more accurate information regarding the condition that you think you have rather than spending time reading what's on Google. So that way you would be able to validate as well if you do have the disease or not because yeah, just like what I mentioned earlier, it doesn't do you any good to believe on what you have just read. It will be much better for you to consult a specialist.
I totally agree with you, ma'am. Kasi di ba parang ganito, there has been a lot of instances wherein just because they have seen or just because they have read in Google, Wikipedia or whatnot, na ang symptom ng halimbawa, we're just making an example, pero ang symptom ng brain tumor is headache. Just because you have headache right now, you're self-diagnosed, oh my God, meron ata akong tumor, may cancer ata ako sa utak, ganon, di ba? So, there is really a process of doing so. There is really a test for this kind of illnesses, di ba? That we can only get if we seek a professional, di ba?
And even after consultation with appropriate doctors, it would still take you like how many tests, even for them, even when they're already specialist in the field for how many years, they are still required to do some tests in order for you to confirm a certain diagnosis. So how could Doodle do that for you? It's like taking a shortcut but ending up on a dead end. I think that's how it is when you do self-diagnosis. So it's a double-edged sword nowadays that those information can just be accessed by, making a search online. it to me, it's a double-edged sword because the availability of those information makes anxiety more prevalent than ever nowadays, because people tend to believe what they can actually read online. They sometimes do not even have the time to validate things. So yeah, just keep in mind, not just in terms of mental symptoms, but for all your other symptoms, refrain from searching it from Google, and make sure to always consult specialists for that. That's the best thing in order for you not to resort to self-diagnosis.
True enough. So I think that's one of just like what Ali and also Fran mentioned a while ago. That's what they actually do when they look into details, or when they research in Google. They just don't look at it as if it's just a piece of information. They actually to validate it. Tama, Ali and Fran? That's what you do. That's what you did, right? Or what you have been doing so far, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Ali.
Yeah, for me, that's what I'm parang, like what Ma'am Rachel said nga, na parang sobrang accessible talaga ng mga information online. So, and then it's so scary, like what we see also in social medias. Like sometimes sobrang nakaka-trigger sila, and when we experience the same thing that they currently experiencing, parang nagkakaroon na tayo agad ng conclusion na, oh, maybe, parang we have the same condition, ganyan. Parang sobrang hirap naman na parang you don't have the parang wala kang enough information. And what ang sinabi din ni Ma'am Rachel na parang it's parang in order for you to get diagnosed, it has to go through a complex process. And those lab tests, like we can't get that online. So why do we have to self-diagnose ourselves?
Anything to add, Fran? Thank you very much, Ali. Anything to add, Fran?
Pero for me, I think some people resort to self-diagnosing naman because they lack resources to get to doctors. Pero ayun nga po, as Ma'am Rachel said, it's a double-edged sword po. Since it can probably do more harm than help the person self-diagnosing din po.
Thank you very much, Fran. Balikan ko lang si Lou. Lou, was the access to a professional a challenge back then? Or was it that you were just curious?
Back then, it was for me because I didn't have the resources. I was young. I was in high school. I've never asked my mom for help. And right now, I'm in a much better place. And I was able to ask for my own self. I have my own money now. I asked for help. Yeah.
Exactly. So, kumbaga, you were able to provide na, or rather, you were able to pay for the professional fee, kumbaga, parang ganon.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so next question tayo. Never have I ever practiced toxic positivity. Yun bang, kumbaga, you're just trying to really be optimistic with everything na things would be okay. Ayan. Think happy thoughts na lang. So I have for Ali, for Mom Rachel, for Fran, and now kay Lou, I have never naman siya. Okay, so balik rin naman natin. Let's talk about those who have shared or answered I have. Let's start naman with Fran. Ayan. So when do you usually do this, Fran?
Usually for back then, with my friends who were struggling a lot because you didn't really think about what they were struggling to. um usually your parents or older people say just be motivated, kaya mo yan, or other lines along that stuff, and they don't really think it's a matter of the problem itself, but rather a lack of motivation. Yun po.
Thank you, friend. For you, Ali, if you don't mind me asking, was what the most recent, probably the most recent uh event that you actually did this? That ano ka, nag-toxic positivity ka?
Me siguro, hindi naman like super ngayon lang. Pero before then, parang I try to practice toxic positivity kasi hindi ko kaya na hindi pwedeng hindi gumalaw. So the only thing that motivates me is if I parang motivate myself as well. Na parang, it's going to be okay, ganyan. Parang tinatry kong itago I try to repress my emotions with this positive thoughts. Pero in reality, it's not actually helping me. Kasi like, what I'm doing is I'm just repressing my emotions. And so, parang before din kasi the reason why I do that is because I don't, yung knowledge ko when it comes to mental health is very little lang. I don't have the knowledge about that. So, for me, I don't even know na it's toxic pala. I just thought before that it was positivity. Yun, parang hindi pa siya toxic positivity. It's not just parang ngayong year lang, wherein parang yun nga, nag-show na yung mga signs kung paano ko ba naging toxic positivity, ganyan. So, yun po for me.
Parang ano lang no? You're just being optimistic with things.
Yeah.
Di ba? How about you, Lou? So if for them, they were actually thinking of that way just to shade or rather to cover what they are actually experiencing or they are feeling. For you, you said you have never. So how does it go for you?
The thing with that, kasi I was in that position wherein I would ask for people's opinion. I would ask them. I would tell
Lou, okay lang. Can you repeat your statement after my question? Medyo nagkakat-kat siya eh.
Yes. Yes.
they tell me, be positive. It's gonna be okay. Oh yeah. Hello. Hello.
Ayan, better.
Hello. Okay. 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 So ayun nga, I was in that position wherein I would ask for help from people and they would just tell me to pray to God. They would tell me to be positive. Everything's going to be okay. I mean, it's not bad. It's okay for the most part. But at that moment, you want to be validated that your problems are real and your problems exist and that you exist. Again. Hello.
Okay naman. Naget naman namin
Okay.
yun. No? Nakuha naman namin
Okay.
yung
Okay.
validate and your exist. Okay.
Yeah. So, ayun, basically that's how I felt. And being in that position, you know what to do when other people come to you na. And I think learning from that experience, I think I can be a better person when it comes to those matters.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Lou. Ma'am, di ba, positivity can be toxic pala, no? I mean, with that connotation, toxic positivity. How so? How so, ma'am, kaya to? Na parang, even though it's supposedly to be helpful, but it would be toxic on a certain point.
You have to be aware of the situation as well as the mindset of the person you are telling those positive things to. That's the first thing, because I have experienced it myself. Because back then I was preparing for an international licensure exam. It was very difficult during the review part. Most of us are failing the exams being set by the review center. And then there was this student advisor who kept telling us to just study, just study. It was very tiring for all of us because the exam that we just failed, we spent like 2 weeks studying for it, and then we ended up failing. So can you just imagine the feeling of hearing something like that from the student advisor? She keeps telling you to go on despite what happened. I mean, you haven't even recovered your sleep yet, haven't even taken a rest yet from the previous exam, and then you're here and you're supposed to take another exam, and you're supposed to do the same grueling type of preparation in order for you to make up for the exam that you failed. It really depends on the situation when you're gonna be telling someone to be positive and to stay the course, and just keep going, because sometimes it's not easy, especially when you just went through something that is very difficult. You have to first acknowledge that you've gone through something very difficult, and it takes some time for you to recuperate. So I think that's how it becomes toxic. You can always tell someone that they can keep going, that it's all right, that there is a silver lining for everything. But first, acknowledge what is happening at the present. You have to allow yourself to recover. And the reason why I mentioned that I have been in a situation where I was the one who was being toxic to someone. I thought I was being supportive of my students before, because they failed the validation exam, and they weren't able to get promoted as interns. I thought I was being comforting and supportive, but it turns out, upon realizing, I was becoming this person that was toxic, somehow toxic to them. Although I was able to recognize what they were going through during that time, I think what I may have told them was that they have to study harder and prepare for next semester, so that when the exam comes, they will be more prepared and be able to pass the exam. Although those are good things to tell your students when they have failed a very important exam, I think I have failed in some point, to acknowledge how they were feeling at that moment. So yeah, I think I was guilty of toxic positivity at some point in my life. I get the intention. We are trying to be supportive and comforting, but that's not always the case. Sometimes what is necessary is to address what is going on right now, and that is how they are feeling at the moment. Sometimes what you can just do is listen and let them express what they really feel. That alone helps lessen what they are feeling. If they are frustrated, if they are depressed, the fact that they were able to let it out and not think of those things all by themselves, you have already helped them already, just by listening. Because it's very difficult to just keep it to yourself, and then you will end up spiraling on your own thoughts. So it's always better to let things out and discuss things with someone else. So yeah,
Okay lang yun, ma'am.
that's my
Actually,
my
this is
two cents
perfect kasi, ma'am, di ba,
regarding
when
that.
you said that, you thought, whenever you try to comfort someone, most especially your class, yung mga students, di ba, you thought that you're
Yes.
actually comforting them. But this is an
Yeah.
opportunity for us. We have students here. We have 3 students here. I, for myself, would be the 4th. So probably we can hear from Fran, from Ali, from Lou. Whenever we hear this kind of motivation from our professor, we fail this very important quiz, parang ganon, 'di ba? And she says, "Okay lang yan, kaya yan, guys. So, study harder lang." How do you actually feel? Let's start with Fran this time.
For me, it's kind of minsan insensitive because some people are not giving you time to, as ma'am said niya, time to recuperate or grieve the failure you have experienced. Instead of sometimes it's just important to listen to the person who was experiencing it rather than giving them you don't really want to be motivated, you just want to someone to be there by your side instead of them giving you motivation or light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you, Fran. How about you, Ali?
Same with Fran then. Like, for me, I would feel invalidated then. Like, instead of saying this, parang mga statements, why not just affirm the person? And you're just there to support them or andyan ka lang if they need help, ganyan. Kasi sometimes people, actually, parang most of the people naman, when they ask for support, they don't really ask for your advice. What they want is for you to listen. But tayo, when we're coming from the other side of the spectrum, kung tayo naman yung magsusupport sa isang tao, like yung parang it's important to listen, but when you listen, you should be empathetic listeners. So when you become empathetic listeners, you don't just listen to understand, but what you do, your intention should be um you listen until the person gets ay parang feel niya na iintindihan na siya. Yun po for me.
Thank you, Ali. And Lou, you mentioned that you actually have been receiving parang mga ganitong toxic positivity, di ba? So how do you actually, how do you manage it? How do you parang weigh things or weigh those particular comments or suggestions?
At this point, at this point, sanay na ako. Na naiintindihan ko na they're trying to I'm lagging again. Hello. Yeah, at this point,
Medyo.
naiintindihan ko na. Oo. Ikaw ako eh. Pero ayun, at this point, naiintindihan ko na kung saan sila nanggagaling, kung bakit nila sinasabi yun. And I think naiintindihan naman nila na ngayon kasi mas aware na sila na toxic positivity is a thing and it shouldn't be always there, and that it's okay to listen. It's okay to be there, just to be there. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong without it. You don't have to feel na you're less of a person because you're not able to. Ayan. Pero and then that's it.
Thank you very much. Ako sa totoo lang this toxic positivity, I for myself have experienced this na parang hindi ko kailangan hindi ko kailangan marinig na you guys would tell me I can do it. Hindi ko kailangan marinig na you guys are there for me. What I need for you to hear is that I am having a breakdown at the moment. I need someone to be there for me, to listen for me, and hindi yung sasabihin niya na kaya ko. Ayan. So, doon ko na, first time first time ko siyang na-experience. Because I thought then before that just by telling people that you can do this, you know your strengths, parang ganyan, you would be highlighting their strengths, mga ganyan, di ba? Even trying to parang you would try to have them remember yung mga accomplishments nila. Di ba kung hindi mo nga to ginawa, wala ka dito ngayon. So ikaw pa ba? Kayang-kaya mo yan. Hindi natin kailangan ng ganun sometimes eh. What we need is just a person to listen to. Sabi nga ni Ludin kanina, to validate that I have an existing problem. I have an existing dilemma at this point. And the best approach or the best way that you can help me is just to listen to me, and probably hindi yung sabihin mong kaya mo to, but for you to tell me, sige, pahinga ka muna. I think what you need is rest. Diba? Lalo na ngayon. I mean, with the changes that we had from the transition from face to face, then abruptly being online, a lot of students and even faculty members, di po ba? That big change, that big transition. But hopefully right now we're slowly adapting to it na nga, di ba? Parang kasi nasanay na tayo. But yeah. Next tayo. That was really a nice discussion there. Next tayo, third question po tayo. And this will be the last question for our icebreaker. Icebreaker pa lang, pero ang dami na natin pinag-uusapan. Okay. Never have I ever practiced an unhealthy coping mechanism. So probably this is something that we do for ourselves or we do for others. Never have I ever practiced an unhealthy coping mechanism. Ayan, everyone had or have experienced that or have already done that. So, ma'am, what I think si ma'am yung kaninang kaninang shinare niya is a very good example when it comes to her naman, her kumbaga, the coping mechanism that she is trying to impart sa class niya. Diba? Pero ma'am, for you, for parang personal nyo naman, whenever you have, either a really not so good day, ayan, what were your healthy or even yung doon tayo sa unhealthy pala muna, what were your unhealthy coping mechanisms? And why do you actually consider it unhealthy pala? Ayan.
Well, for me, it was unhealthy because that led to procrastination. Yeah, because for example, I had a really stressful day at work, and then the next day it's weekend, it's Saturday. So what I'm gonna do is to spend the entire day binge watching my favorite TV show or probably rereading my favorite book. Anything that would make me feel good. That's probably what I would be doing, or probably buy clothes or shoes at the time.
Retail therapy, ma'am.
Retail therapy, and maybe even go to a cafe and splurge on food, give into my cravings. But at the end of the day, you would realize the money that you have spent, the time that you have lost binge watching the show, and the task that you're supposed to have done during that time. So for me, there is a limit, and there should be a balance between giving yourself breaks and splurging, and letting yourself be caught up with the situation. Just because you're depressed, you're gonna end up buying this dress, and then later on you're gonna regret it because you should have saved that money, and then so you're gonna eat at this cafe and spend this much, and then later on you will regret it because you have gained weight, things like that. You can acknowledge what you are feeling at the moment. You can acknowledge the stress that you're going through without actually adding up to the stress that you might experience later on. So for me, those are the bad habits that I usually resort to whenever I have a stressful day. I admit that still happens to me. I would find myself binge watching K-drama for like the next 6 hours, only to realize I haven't checked your activities on Canvas. And it's already the deadline of submission for prelim grades, and I haven't posted your prelim grades yet. So things like that. Just make sure that when you are trying to do something for your mental health, make sure that it's still reasonable, that you wouldn't regret it later on. Yeah.
Who would have thought professors procrastinate too? I mean, I think I can speak for the student body here, yung mga kaming students. Siguro naman Fran, Ali, and Lou, magsisinungaling tayo if we would not say na nag-procrastinate tayo or nagpo-procrastinate pa rin tayo hanggang ngayon, di ba? So ayan. So thank you, ma'am. So Fran, ayan, how about you? Any unhealthy coping mechanism? Do you also procrastinate?
I think everybody procrastinates naman. Pero for me, my unhealthy habit was unhealthy both mentally and physically because whenever I'm stressed or I have a lot of things to do, I like to drink coffee because I think it makes me feel productive. Pero at a certain point, it becomes unhealthy because after the second to third cup of coffee, you just feel very jittery. And at one point, I guess I got up to a 6 cup of coffee in one day, and I felt really really bad at that point. Kasi I felt empty because I felt very very dry. I felt my head ache, my head was pounding, and it was an unhealthy habit, and because it just made me feel more bad than I was. Instead of just being stressed, now I feel stressed with a headache and a very dry throat.
Ako coffee drinker na ako pero grabe yung 6 cups pa na coffee ang ang inubos mo ha. Eh talaga magpapalpitate ka niyan. sobrang sobrang kumbaga awake ka na. And sometimes 'di ba sa sobrang ang nangyayari na lang is gising ang katawan mo pero parang lumulutang na lang yung isip mo, 'di ba?
Yes, very very palpitated, pero still the body is very tired, but my mind is very very awake at that point po.
Ayan, buti naman. I mean, nakasama ka pa namin ngayon at hindi ka masyadong na-overdose sa coffee. Di ba? Pwede ma-overdose sa coffee kung sakasakali, ha? Thank you very much, Fran. Ali, how about you?
For me naman, coming from a different perspective from Ma'am Rachel, ako naman, I don't, parang, what I do is I try to do a lot of things. Like so many things all at once, and I do it excessively. To the extent na I don't take rest na. I don't know if it's just me kasi if I slack off or if I'm not doing anything, I feel more anxious kasi parang dapat may ginagawa ka, ganyan. Parang nasana yung body ko na kailangan may gawin ako. So what I do is I work, or I study a lot, ganyan. I work a lot, ganyan. To the point na nade-drain na ako, nabre-burn out na ako. And in today's society, sobrang uso niyan. Di ba nga parang our society is called burnout society. Kasi sobrang nabre-burn out na tayo kasi we keep on doing things. We want to be productive. But instead of being productive, what happens is the other way around. And it's not helping us. Tapos parang sometimes kasi feeling ko kapag madami akong ginagawa, productive na ako. But I've learned na doing a lot of things, iba yung busy from being productive. Sometimes rest is also productive. So yun po for me.
Wow, grabe sana I have your energy. Pero even though, 'di ba, sabi nga kahit na ganyan ka ka-active in making or completing your task, it would still put a toll on how much you can actually do. Kasi even for you, 'di ba, nasabi mo kahit na sobrang productive ka, you would by the end of the day you would still feel na very tiring naman, 'di ba? Or tired rather, tapos exhausted. So hindi rin maganda masyadong ganun, 'di ba? So pahinga rin naman, Ali. Ayan. How about you, Lou?
Oh my god, I feel so ashamed because all of you have like somehow healthy coping mechanisms, and here I am. Oh my god.
Well, actually, para siyang healthy na unhealthy kasi like for mom, it's procrastination.
Healthy na
Diba?
unhealthy. Yeah, they're just having got into smoking. I'm so sorry. And it's really
Go lang.
unhealthy because it's your lungs and all that. And yeah, dentistry is very stressful. I didn't know what to do before then. I didn't have a guide. And I saw other people doing it, so I was like, why not try it just to know what it feels like? And I did. And I didn't like it, and I stopped. So it's a good experience, but I would never go back to it again. And yeah, I'm in a better place now, I guess. It's something that I never look forward to again. Yeah, then that's it. That's just it.
It's okay. But thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much, Ali, Fran, and Ma'am Rachel for participating in that little icebreaker of ours. But now, what we will be doing is we would be reacting to some common responses about mental health. Or basically, ito yung mga responses ng mga tao whenever we feel something or a person who's somewhat breaking down or is stressed would actually hear. And we would like to know what are your thoughts about these statements or comments. So actually may mga nasagot na tayo kanina about yung okay lang yan, just pray, di ba? Katulad ng sabi ni Lou kanina. And we also have yung sabi ko nga, count your blessings or your accomplishments, 'di ba? Kung alam mo na kaya mo 'to dahil nagawa mo na 'tong mga 'to, eh, 'di ba? How about this one? Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. You fail because there's a reason you fail, 'di ba? 'Di ba parang gano'n na parang may ano may something tong pagka fail yung failure mo ngayon. Parang it's written in the stars in the universe, parang gano'n pa. How do you react on that, or what is your thought about that? Let's start with Ali.
Me, I do believe na everything happens for a reason. But if I'm experiencing parang I'm sad ngayon, I don't have to hear that today. Maybe you can parang tell me that parang the next day na lang. Pero for now, let me sulk in. Parang hayaan mo muna ako na allow me to parang be sad. I know everything happens for a reason, but I don't have to hear it from you today and for me.
O, 'di ba? Parang oo, sige fine. Dapat nga siya mangyari. So feeling ko rin naman dapat akong mag-ano, 'di ba? Dapat kong i-take in muna yung nangyayari sa akin, 'di ba? How about for you, Fran?
I usually hate hearing this from other people that everything happens for a reason. But for me, I say it to myself bilang pampalubag loob pag may masama nangyari. Parang everything happens for a reason. Another good thing will happen next time. Pero sometimes it becomes very, very insensitive, lalo na when it comes to deaths. I hear people say this that people have another plan for the deceased. So I think the family don't need to hear that. Just keep it to yourself because it will come off as very, very insensitive.
Okay. Thank you, Fran. Nakita ko kanina yung sobrang pagtango ni Lu nung about that particular scenario na parang if it would be about death, parang ganyan. So Lu, yes, strongly agree. Bakit? Bakit?
Ito ha. I lost my father when I was like 11, and ayun, I went back to school. No, that was January, New Year. I went back to school then, and then kausap ko yung mga klase ko, and then one stood out sa akin nun, and they told me that. I was like, huh? May rason? Ba't namatay si Papa? I was so shook then. Pero ayun, we were young and naintindihan ko, but it's something that you shouldn't tell people talaga. It's something you shouldn't tell people who lost someone because it's heavy for them. Hindi pa sila nakaka-adjust and it's hard to move on from that kind of thing. Especially na it's such a wound na hindi pa nag-heal. Sobrang bago pa lang sa akin. And I was so young then. Pero, ayun, just refrain from saying that unless buhay yung tao and it's a different kind of situation. Like, say, for example, it's exams. It's something na if you can control pa, it's okay to say that. It's actually a good thing to hear, but not to people who lost someone. And those are my thoughts.
So medyo pili-pili lang din ng pili-pili lang din ng sitwasyon na pagsasabihan. Right? Ma'am Rachel, how about you? Is this something that you would usually say to some of your friends, probably close friends?
I don't usually say that to other people, but I often tell that to myself. For one, it's not really a one size fits all line. It's so cliche to hear such a thing na parang we always resort to that again just because we're trying to be comforting, pero more than giving the other person comfort, they've heard it probably a number of times already and it's not helping anymore. But why do I tell that to myself often? For me, it's a way to put a stop on my thoughts, my own thoughts. Because sometimes, no, our thoughts could actually destroy us. It could be very destructive, especially if we're gonna end up spiraling or obsessing with a certain negative thought, and we're gonna end up being depressed by merely just thinking about it. So for me, I always tell that to myself just so I could put a stop to my own thoughts and not spiral into any more negativities that I could come up with. But for other people, if it were from me, I wouldn't be using that line at all. Because like what I said, it's so cliche already. Probably a lot of people have already used that. So nobody needs to hear that anymore because repetitively, and yun nga, every time you use it, it loses its sense. So, alam niyo yun, it's not a one-size-fits-all advice. Sabi niyo nga, it's inappropriate, lalo na if we're talking about losses or debts. Tapos you're gonna rationalize things by telling them that this happened for a particular reason. So yun, maybe you could tell that to yourself just to put a stop on your thoughts so you wouldn't ponder on it for too long. But that's it. Don't use it with other people kasi nga, they've heard it. They've heard it all before. It probably wouldn't help at this point.
I like it actually, ma'am, that you said that you're not using this to other people at all. Like, you don't really use it. Kasi, tama yun. We come from different, backgrounds. We have different experiences. Itong mga nangyayari sa atin, it may look the same from what we have experienced, but not totally the same. And if for you, like si ma'am nga, sinabi niya, she sometimes use this phrase na to herself just to put a stop on, spiraling yung thoughts nga niya. It doesn't mean that when you actually tell this to someone else who you think have the same, who's experiencing the same feeling, situation, based from what you had, it would actually do the same. Kasi paano nga naman yun, halimbawa, di ba? Sabi natin death, balik na tayo din sa death, di ba? Parang, yes, I use it for myself just to stop thinking about it. Pero should I actually use it as well? Eh, tingnan mo kay Lu, kung yung sinabi sa kanya yun, di ba? Parang, what? What reason? Baka mamaya, kung ako yun, baka tatanungin pa ako, sige, anong rason? Di ba? Ako magalit eh. Rason, ikaw magbigay ng rason, di ba? So, hindi siya nakatulong. Yan. How about this one? This is more of an invalidating remark eh, na parang, ito, yung mga ganitong comments. You're just overthinking. It's all in your mind. Or it could also be, others have worse experience or have experienced this worse than you. Paano naman yun? Paano yun? How about you, ma'am? Sige, start naman tayo kay ma'am.
This is very common. Because I've been working as a professor for 6 years now. And most of my co-faculties, we would discuss amongst ourselves. They think, it's not me pero they think that the generation now is very fragile, especially in terms of mental and emotional being. And then they would even compare what they have experienced when they were still in school with what the students are going through right now. So, as a faculty myself, and as a young professional myself, I'm in between those. I'm in between eh. Kasi parang I know how my students really feel. Kasi ever since, I'm the kind of professor that the students could actually approach and talk to if they have concerns. And I also know that what my co-faculties have gone through when they were students are also true naman. I mean, we've all had our share of difficulties when we were studying, or even outside school activities, even yung sa personal lives natin, we probably have been through a lot already. But it doesn't mean that we can compare to a certain degree yung pinagdadaanan ng ibang tao. So I have seen my co-faculties do that. But for myself, like I said, I was in between, pero I have learned to listen more to the students, because it's just not right to label someone fragile or weak emotionally and mentally, it is just not right to tell someone that they are overthinking things. It's like blaming someone for their own misfortunes. Like I said, hindi pa din nakakatulong. You're doing more harm than good. So yun. I think the concept of overthinking, uh, where people would tell you na it's all in your mind, you're just overthinking it. Yung concept ng overthinking, siguro dapat alisin natin yun. Why? Kasi, number one, not everyone has the same mindset when it comes to dealing with matters, personal matters, losses. So, alam mo yun, hindi porket this kind of thinking works for you, it should work with the other person. So, you might think this person is overthinking when in fact, no, a lot of things are going on inside their head that we are not really aware of. So, ako personally, I want to abolish the concept of overthinking. Do not call someone an overthinker kasi nga magkakaiba tayo ng thought processes. And not everything that goes inside our head aware yung ibang tao. So ayun. So yun I think yung naging limitation ng ibang faculties who thought that students nowadays are more fragile kasi nga alam niyo yun, they failed to realize na hindi porket you've gone through something worse you think is worse than what they're going through doesn't mean that their emotions and feelings are not valid. So yun, yun yung yun yung take ko doon.
Thank you, ma'am. But kayo guys, Fran, Ali, Lou. I know Lou, parang I think umabot nata ng clinics eh. Tama ba, Lou? Umabot ka na ng clinics, di ba? Pero for Ali and Fran, kayo talaga inabutan ng face-to-face eh. Do you ever receive that kind of comment? I think kay Lou na ano niya na to eh, na receive niya to one time or another. Yung parang anxious ka sa work mo, na parang okay na ba to or what not, or pangit pa to, ganyan. Pero biglang may sasabi sa'yo, naku, okay lang yan, wag mong intindihin yan, may mas pangit pa nga dyan, may mas ano pa dyan, merong mas, parang may mas worse pa dyan, so wag mo masyadong isipin. Did you experience that, Lou?
I actually did. Pero, ayun.
Did it help when you heard that?
It's so hard to admit kasi kind of. Kasi, people have it worse. And there's that, what's that German word? Schadenfreude. Wherein you... I forgot. Is it right, Fran? Is it Schadenfreude? Parang ganun. Along the lines of that. It's like rejoicing in the pain of others, which is wrong. It's really wrong. It's never right. I admit. And yeah, sometimes it's okay to think that someone has it worse, but it's also bad kasi you shouldn't be thinking that. And ayun, I've gone through that. I also thought about that, admittedly, but I didn't like the feeling after that. It's
Thank you very much, Lou. Siguro kay Ali and Fran, eto, siguro ilagay natin on a quiz perspective. Yan, medyo pag nag-quiz, nag-exam, di ba? Oh, shucks, bagsak ako, ganyan. Tapos malalaman mo, bakit ilan ka ba? Kunyari, ang quiz is up to 20. Oh, bagsak ako. Ba't ilan ka ba? 10 or 8, ganyan. Okay lang yan, ganyan. Yung isa nga may 0 eh. Di ba parang ganun eh? Di ba parang ganun? So how do you feel, kayo, Fran and Ali, how do you feel whenever people would tell you that, na worry ka sa score mo kasi hindi siya umabot dun sa even half. Or actually, 50 pala umabot. Pero technically, 50 is not passing still, di ba? So, how do you feel whenever people would tell you that, okay lang yan, may naka-zero nga eh, di ba? Kasi ganito nga, zero eh. Let's start with Fran this time.
This is very embarrassing to admit, but after every quiz, I go to the grades page of the Canvas and I look at the average scores for our class. And if you got example for 10 over 50, and you will feel very bad, but you would see that's the average score of the class, I will immediately feel better. And that's very embarrassing to admit, but I think we all do this a lot and we keep it to ourselves because it's kind of bad because you're gloating in the misery of others too. But it's a collective misery which makes it less hurtful to our feelings po.
Kasi may kumbaga, may kadamay ka, which is, I think that's the good thing. Kasi may kadamay ka, you know that people are actually experiencing probably the same that you are, di ba? Or, yun nga, pangit mapakinggan, much worse probably, di ba? How about you, Ali?
Same with Fran, as in, ginagawa ko din yun. Tapos makikita mo pa sometimes, if di ko umabot ng average, may mas mababa pa doon. Parang hindi naman siya pero okay, hindi ako yung pinakamababa, gano'n. So, like what Fran said nga, it's so embarrassing. But at the same time, parang ngayon, natututunan ko na din na to not compare my misery with other people. Kasi, we all have different parang upbringings, we all have different problems na we are currently facing, ganyan. So, parang to compare your situation to other people, hindi siya pantay. So, yun na lang siguro for me. I just remind myself to not compare myself na lang, yun.
Basta check ko lang yung canvas kung umabot ako sa mean, pero hindi ko natitignan kung yung part na lowest, parang gano'n. Pero hindi, makikita mo pa rin talaga, di ba? Tapos yun nga, a sense of somewhat relief pag alam mong hindi pasok yung mo dun sa low score. Ayan, thank you very much. How about, si Ma'am naman. Meron po ba? Meron po ba kayong na-experience na ganyan na parang others have, mas malas pa nga si ganito eh, ganyan. Okay lang yan dahil eto nga eh, ganito mo. Mga ganun chismisan misa or yung mga ganung nila.
Well, I graduated from PLM, and before, it was very difficult to pass a subject. It's very difficult to survive a subject because what they do in PLM, they will post our target grades by the end of midterm. Say, for example, prelim midterm finals, you need a total of 225 in order for you to get a 3. So you will see your target grade for finals. And if it's 90 or beyond, you should be calling all the saints in order for you to pass. But what happened before was for the entire batch, we were 90 that time. So for the entire batch, only 4 people got a target grade lower than 100. And I am the 5th. And my target grade was 105. So I was thinking to myself, am I gonna be happy for it? Or am I gonna think to myself that majority of the batch will fail and only the 4 people will pass? So it's a very difficult situation to be in, to be honest. Kasi you don't also want to give yourself the comfort of, the comfort of believing that you can still pass despite not having the passing grade just because others have it worse than you. Sa akin nung time na yun, sabi ko, bagsak is bagsak. And you still have to do your part in order for you to make it up and push for it so that maybe you will get a good outcome by the end of the semester. So yun, I've gone through the same thing. Yun nga lang nakakatawa because sabi ko, bayan 105, could have pushed harder, baka naging 95 man lang so that you will somehow, alam mo yun, feel at ease with your grade. But then, yun nga, I actually understand yung pinagdadaanan ng students when they see their scores. So, yun. Pero, ano lang siguro, just make sure na while giving yourself the comfort that you need and the push that you need in order for you to keep going, you also have to acknowledge that you need to do something. Hindi naman tayo pwede na look at the bright side of things, silver lining of things, di ba? It always doesn't work that way. We also need to put in the work, di ba? Para, alam niyo yun, para hindi na tayo mapunta sa sitwasyon na yun. O gusto nyo ba yun every sem, di ba? Titignan mo yung canvas, titignan mo yung portal, tapos stress ka na naman, di ba? Nagdelikado ka, nag-4 ka na naman nung midterm, ganyan. So, you don't wanna go through the same stress.
Hanging by the thread lagi, ma'am, no?
So, yun. So, ganun na lang, di ba? Just, alam mo yun, just do your part. There is a healthy way of, still be able to give your best and do your part and, pass the subjects. Meron pa din namang, alam mo yun, mga paraan para magawa ninyo yun. Time management, di ba? Tapos, yan nga, prioritize your mental health as well. Acknowledge when to take breaks, di ba? So yun, I know right now it's very important to pass your subjects kasi yan ang priority nyo as students, yung academics ninyo. Pero wag nyo sanang paikutin yung buhay nyo sa academics. Okay? You also have to prioritize other aspects of your life as well. So yan. Sana, kahit na madami kayong activities or your exams are coming up, you don't forget to put in physical activities, exercise, diba? Healthy habits. Dito, you still get enough sleep, diba? Kahit gaano ka haba yung kailangan yung reviewin, diba? Manage your time so that you can have adequate amount of sleep so that by the next day, mas makapag-focus ka. I mean, those are the things that you should also be thinking about apart from your scores, apart from your grades. Para hindi na kayo, para hindi nyo pagdaanan yun every term, every sem na nagdidelikado yung grades.
Magpa-araw. Alam mo, magpa-araw. Alam ko sabi ni Kim Chu, bawal lumabas. Pero guys, labas-labas tayo ng konti. Kahit sa lang, bago umabot sa gate, ganyan. No, that's clinically talaga. That's clinically proven talaga ha. Those people who are not getting enough sunlight o hindi nasisinaga ng araw tends to be more parang basta gloomy ang world nila. Ganyan.
True.
Diba? So, kaya kailangan magpa-araw kayo ng konti. Plants nga nagpapa-araw, tao pa, di ba? So you're not getting your vitamin D's, guys. Sige, rurupok ang mga boto natin. Naalala ko tuloy with this phrase, yung others have it worse than you. Naalala ko tuloy yung Squid Game. I mean, I'm not sure if this would actually make sense, di ba? Parang yung most especially dun sa tug of war. If you can remember that. Nakapanood na ba lahat ng Squid Game, Lou, Ali, Fran, si Ma'am Rachel, di ba? Yung sa tug of war na parang ang hirap to actually rejoice on the failure. Yung failure, yung losing team, di ba? On the failure of others, knowing that lalo na yun, yung part na yun, di ba? Yung failure dun was actually the death of that team. Parang ang hirap, di ba? So, kung ayaw natin ma-put on that situation, might as well. Sabi nga, we actually can control naman. We have lots of ways to prevent or avoid being on that situation. Well, in that case, sa Squid Game, huwag kang mangutang, huwag mong hayaang mag-build up ang utang mo, di ba? Well, for hours, di ba? Ano ba yung mga control na factors natin, di ba? We have our time, definitely. So yun, lang talaga, time management din, di ba? So, yan, nice. Eto, grabe to. Mga derogatory remarks about common mental health illnesses. Ayan. Halimbawa, masasabihin ka, your particular situation at biglang sasabihan ka, Ano ka ba? Retarded ka ba? Hindi mo alam yan? Ano ka ba? Ano ka ba? Bipolar ka ba? Kanina lang okay ka, ngayon ganyan ka. May issue ka ba? Yan. I think we can start with Lou. Because Lou, ayan, she has been clinically diagnosed naman talaga with anxiety or basically with the mental health. So before that you were diagnosed with such, how do you feel whenever people would address you or tell you that you're you have this, pero hindi pa nga sure eh, pero yun.
Ayun nga. When I was in high school again, I have this classmate. She told me na we were preparing for a competition, and she told me, kanina okay ka lang, bakit ngayon tiyak na naman okay? Bipolar ka ba? Sabi ko, ha? What do you mean? Why would I have bipolar disorder at this point na hindi ko pa nga na-realize kung ano yun? And I'm basically 14. What the hell? So I was taken aback. Why would you say that to me? Wala ka namang medical background, wala ka namang kasi at that time usong-uso yung what's that, yung parang colon tapos the sad face is another colon. Parang ganun. Back of my mind, I was thinking, do I have it? It gives you parang ideas eh. Those kinds of phrases. It gives you ideas, and it's so wrong to hear it from other people then na wala naman talagang alam sa'yo. Ayan.
Thank you, Lou. How about you, Ali? Whenever you hear this, do you actually consider that you might be, or you really disregard that comment?
Honestly, for me, I haven't experienced na sinasabihan ng ganito. Pero nakarinig na ako ng ibang tao na sinasabi nila to sa ibang tao, ganyan. And nagustuhan ko yung sinabi ni Ate Lu kanina, you have medical background para sabihin yun. Diba? Like, if you don't have any medical background, if you don't, kasi diba parang there's a lot of underlying concept para ma-diagnose talaga yung tao, if bipolar ba siya, if may OCD siya, or yeah, or kaya parang meron siyang mental health illness. And for you to actually say, and sabi ni Ma'am Cristobal, may mga specializations kaya, like, I know someone with this mental illness. You become more sensitive of what we say, especially sa ibang tao, and especially if we don't really know what we're talking about.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ali. How about you, Fran? Is this directly to you, or some?
Me too, I haven't experienced it personally, pero whenever I hear it from others saying that, honestly, I get really angry because they're not coming from a place of concern or anything. They just want to be derogatory or to insult that person. They're not concerned, so they just wanted to insult you. So I think that people shouldn't really say this nga when they do not have a medical background, or if they're not really concerned, like you should get a checkup because I see this in you, the symptoms of mental illnesses. And when they say that, they're just insulting you instead of being concerned talaga. Yun lang.
Thank you, Fran. Ma'am, whenever these statements are being said to a person, does it, kasi parang, would this actually help the person, or would this, parang would help in a sense na, baka nga, kasi sabi ko kanina parang, should I actually consider? Kasi baka nga, hindi ko pa alam. Baka hindi ko pa alam yung situation ko. Or would it actually make things worse because this would just add up to the stress, or rather whatever it is that the person is thinking right now or at that particular moment? Ma'am, sorry po, nakamute po.
Most of the time that it is being said to someone, it's in the context of being insulting. So I think that's the only reason why you would call someone bipolar, running. It's a way to insult the person and actually make them feel bad of having those kinds of habits or thoughts, and it's not good at all. In fact, I pity people who call other people like that. You do not have the sense of being kind. Parang instead of being kind, you chose to be someone na, alam mo yun, parang you are bullying this person just because you found out that this person has this experience or has this condition, di ba? So, hindi actually maganda na you put certain labels on a person. Kasi if that person hears it, di ba? Parang we do not have the sense of responsibility of what we just said. Parang feeling natin, no? Just because alam natin yung definition ng bipolar, does it mean na we can just use that term to someone na, alam mo yun, moody or pabago-bago ng stance from time to time. I mean, ayun, yun yung tingin ko kasi doon eh. Parang, siguro, if you do not have anything good to say, it's either tumahimik ka na lang or much better, choose to be kind. Diba? Kasi hindi naman ako sinabihan ng bipolar or something. I've experienced that, and to me, parang if I would look back at that situation, na-hurt pa din ako kasi feeling ko I was bullied. Because I was an intern that time. And then I was sharing a particular experience to one of my co-interns. Sabi ko, parang I had this anxiety attack kasi there was a friend of mine who died when I was 17. Tapos I suddenly had this feeling na parang, baka mamatay na din ako, ganyan. Kasi you never know what can happen to you. Kasi nga she died suddenly. So parang I was acknowledging that I have felt yung ganong klaseng anxiety. And then this co-intern of mine who overheard yung conversation, sabi niya, ay, may episode ka, ganyan. As if it's a shameful thing to experience. So parang looking back, no, I still feel hurt na parang itong taong to, this person chose to look at it as something negative, as something na, alam niyo, naging flaw sa akin. When in fact, no, you could have chosen to be understanding, to be more open, and to be kind. That sometimes, at some point, yun nga, we would experience things like this. So, alam mo yun, yun na lang, no? Hindi porket alam natin yung definition ng bipolar, we would use that to label other people. Wag ganun, guys. Kasi nga, ayun, sinabi niyo na din naman kanina, you are not psychiatrists to diagnose if this person has bipolar condition. So, yun.
Isa pang popular na na narinig natin, may ADHD ka ba? Ganun. Parang, di ba? Di ba parang, yun naman for the people naman who are actually very active, di ba? Pero, that's true. Kasi even doctors, even the professionals, they don't immediately would tell you, you have this. Di ba? No one, I have never met anyone, even professionals nga, kahit anong field, psychiatry man to, or even sa katawan, I mean like doctors sa katawan, like medicine, parang mga ganyan. Cardiologists, neurologists, they won't immediately tell you that you have this condition. Diba? They have an assumption, diba? They have an assumption, but they would not really directly tell you na you have this based on my assumption. Let's do some tests. Let's do further checking before we can actually conclude that you have this, diba? So tama yan. I mean, clap back sa kanila. Hello, nagda-diagnose. Di ba, ikaw na yung medyo up in up, di ba? I mean, I'm not saying the fight back in the sense that, punch the person, pero I think that's the very, kung ako yun kung how will be responding that, parang, doktor ka, parang ganyan. Hindi mo nga ako in-exam, paano mo lalaman? So, go back to your books. Gaganunin ko. Yan. So, thank you very much for those answers regarding the comments or ano ba to? Remarks being shared by our friends, family, or even classmates, or minsan narinig na lang natin. So, last few questions na lang for everyone. Ayan. Probably, just to wrap up things. Ayan. First and foremost, so why are we actually considering mental health as something important? Why? Let's go to Ali.
For me, mental health is so important because it doesn't just parang affect your relationship with other people or the way you react to other people, but it also affects your relationship with yourself. Yun talaga na parang kailangan alam natin, I mean, we're aware na yung importance of mental health. Kasi if not, ang mangyayari kasi it will manifest sa physical body natin. If we don't take care of our mental health, it will manifest sa physical body natin. It will also affect our relationship with other people. That's why I really want to honor you guys, like, for creating a space wherein people can share their experiences when it comes to mental health. Kasi this is a taboo topic, especially here in the Philippines. And not everyone's willing to parang sit down and have a conversation about this. But you guys are not just raising awareness, but you're also taking an action to actually parang talk about mental health or mental awareness. Pwede nyo naman gawin, like, just post a PubMats. But what you did was parang you took it to the next level and actually invited some guests to parang enlighten din yung ibang manonood about the different symptoms or how we can take care of our mental health. So for me, ayun, thank you so much for that. And also parang, yun nga, for me, importance talaga since it will really affect you as a person, your relationship with yourself.
Wow, thank you very much, Ali. And Fran, how about you?
Ayun, I really agree with what Ali said because I think that mental health goes hand in hand with physical health. Lalo na ingrained sa society natin na nasa isip mo lang yan, ganun. Or common people think that you don't have mental health problems if you haven't been clinically diagnosed. So the work that people do to raise mental health awareness so that it becomes ingrained in the society na mental health should also be taken care of, not just physical health, because yun nga, katulad ng sabi ni Ali, it will also manifest in your physical health if you've been a bad place in your mental health.
Thank you, Fran. How about you, Lou?
It's really important to discuss mental health kasi it's been a long time since from other generations, they never discuss this. And whenever a person has a mental health issue or like meron silang sakit mentally, ini-invalidate na nila kagad, which is wrong. And tama nga yung sinabi ni Ali at ni Fran na it will manifest physically, and it's hard to, when it comes to that, it's hard to counter na kasi sobrang dami ng kailangan gawin in some cases. Some people develop eating disorders, some people develop insomnia, and worse, some people kill themselves because of that. Trigger warning, guys. Pero, ayun, it's really important to validate someone with who's mentally unstable. And thank you so much for having me here in this podcast. And it's really good to hear na people are discussing and people are making other people more aware of it. And it's a great thing to have. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Ma'am, why is it that mental health should be talked about and not the approach should not be just like pub mats?
Sorry, the approach
The
should not
approach is
be.
not like just pub mats. Your publication materials like posters, advertisements, something like that.
Okay.
Why do you think
Okay.
it's important to actually talk about it just like this?
Okay, so here's how I would put the importance of mental health, no, in terms of what we see, what we hear, what we feel. Okay, so for example, you have physical symptoms,
Ma'am?
medical help from a doctor. What do you think is the first thing that would come to their mind given this point in time? Diba? They will think it's COVID. And so you will end up having yourself tested. You're gonna undergo RT-PCR, and then it turns out positive. And then you're gonna do every means for you to get better. You're gonna get treated. You're gonna isolate yourself so that you won't be able to spread the virus. So that's how we take care of our personal health. We acknowledge symptoms that we are experiencing, and then we report the signs that other people have seen on us. And then, after clinical examinations, they will come up with a certain diagnosis, and then you will get treated. That's how it is with our physical health. And the way we take care of our physical health, we eat healthy foods, we practice healthy habits, we don't drink too much alcohol, we don't smoke, mga ganun, di ba? We exercise. That's how we put um, priority when it comes to physical health. But what about mental health? It is something that you don't see it on a person. If this person is, something is going on inside his mind, you don't readily see it. There are no visible signs of mental health problems. um, you don't really feel it if sometimes other people are not very open to talking about their mental health issues, di ba? So alam niyo yon. And mental health is very important because yun nga, unlike other diseases that could affect the body, this is something that you do not readily see unless you are ready to talk about it, unless you are ready to listen to the person and what he is going through. And so, mental health awareness is very important because it empowers people who are experiencing mental health problems to seek help, and that it is okay to seek help. That's one. They must be able to get the feeling that it's okay to get help, because before we have certain stigma that actually prevents them from opening up. Diba, we have heard tragedies in the past. For example, yung si Kate Spade, yung designer na si Kate Spade, diba? She died of depression. But people are so shocked kasi how could she have such problem pala, given that this is the kind of life that she's lived. So yun. So before it's too late, before the disease could actually kill the person, di ba? Might as well, alam niyo yun, encourage them to open up and talk about these things. Kasi nga, sabi ko nga, no, hindi ito katulad ng sakit na nakikita natin ang signs and symptoms. Okay? The best way for us to be diagnosed is to open it up, to talk about it. And para, alam niyo yun, para to empower those people, di ba? We should promote mental health awareness. I think that is the most important reason why we are doing this, no? To empower those people that they can actually open up and talk about their mental health problems, and that it's okay. it is a way for us to break the stigma. That just because, just because you are experiencing anxiety doesn't mean that you are unstable. Okay, let us remove that kind of notion na having mental health problems makes you unstable. That is not the case. Okay, you have a condition that can be treated. Okay, this is not something terminal that you have to be so afraid of, and therefore you should seek help when you can. So yun yung ano talaga, yun yung importance of mental health. Diba lagi natin sinasabi, we could have prevented the suicide if this person opened up to us. Pero have we realized what is the reason why this person chose to sarilihin niya yung problema niya? Probably because alam niyo yun, he didn't feel na valid yung nararamdaman niya. He didn't feel na it was okay for him to feel this kind of feeling at some point. So yun, we have to empower all of us na pwede pala, we can discuss these things. Kasi hindi mo talaga siya madadiagnose just by signs and symptoms alone. Okay? The only way for you to diagnose it is through talking about it.
Yun, actually tama. Kasi parang just like what my mom said, it's not like other illnesses that would have signs and symptoms. When you have high temperature, that's a possibility of infection. When you have high blood pressure, that could be hypertension, di ba? That's very easy. I mean, easy in a sense that we have those gauges, we have those parameters that we can actually look into. Pero for mental health kasi, we don't have an apparatus ready available for us to actually, okay, ano parang yung temperature check lang, o itututok sa ulo, okay, pag pindot, ay, okay, may mental health, may mental health issue. Wala tayong ganun eh. So, it's really nice to have things like this to discuss, like platforms, and even actually hindi natin kailangan ng platforms in our own homes. And with that, I would like to ask, in your family, sa bahay niyo, ganyan, how has been your family been helping you, or how are they able to help you manage your mental health, parang ganyan? Generally mental health, we're not saying that we actually have an illness at this point, but how are they able to contribute of you having stable mental health, probably? Or if you do have an illness right now, a clinically diagnosed illness, what are their, what is their contribution, or how have they been helping you with this? Let's start with Fran.
In our home naman po, I think that they've been very supportive in my academics po and social life, in the sense that they have their own tasks too, but we are busy, and we have a little baby sibling that we take turns in taking care of, since we all lead very busy lives, especially that four of us are schooling, and both of my parents are working. So it's very, very stressful if we didn't have a give and take system in taking care of taking care of each other. So give and take din po. So para mabawasan yung stress ng pamilya mo, tas mabawasan nila yung stress mo, if we all we all work together po to achieve a stable mental health.
Thank you. How about you, Ali?
Well, for me naman, I have a direct source of parang kung paano ko naaano yung mental health ko. Kasi for me, like aside from being a student, like what I've mentioned, I also have different organizations wherein we conduct masterminds every Friday. So from there talaga, parang natututo ako on how to really manage not just your emotions, but also how to take care of yourself. But I just want to acknowledge also yung support ng family ko. Kasi I won't be able to attend those masterminds. I won't be able to parang attend organizations if hindi nila ako sinusuportahan. if parang wala akong time to attend those. Pero sila parang very giving sila of kapag need ko ng time na nakaupo lang ako in front of my computer because of the mastermind sessions, andyan sila to really support me. So siguro yun yung that's something that I'm grateful for. The support that I'm getting from my family and also the support that I'm getting from the organizations that I'm currently in.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, how about you po? How is family or technically what is the importance of a family when it comes to the upbringing of mental health, or basically having a trying to having a stable mental health for an individual?
Well, your family is a reflection of who you are, and also your family. Most of the time that you have been alive, you were with them, so they know you best. You might think that at some point they don't understand you, but the truth is they still know you better than other people. So when it comes to involving your family, if you have mental health problems, uh, uh, they wouldn't turn their backs on you. That's for sure. So if you need support, if you need help, the first persons that you're supposed to be turning to would be your family members. Kasi yun nga, they've been with you the longest. They know you best. So just trust that, alam mo yun, at some point they will understand what you're going through. Anyway, pamilya mo sila eh. Hindi ka naman nila pababayaan. I think that's the kind of mindset na meron tayo dito sa Pilipinas, no? Yung close family ties that we have. So you can count on those things, di ba? If ever you're going through something, you can actually talk to them first. So yun. That's also one thing that we can include in our mental health awareness, yung promotion natin ng mental health, that they actually have their families that they can talk to. Siyempre, hindi din naman natin may iwasan na sometimes, no, it's also within our family that is causing us mental health problems. Iba naman din yun. But what I'm saying is, still, you can get support from the people who you are closest with. So,
Thank you very much, ma'am. And Lou, since di ba before you actually have a hint of that you somewhat have an illness, di ba? Until you were able to get really clinically diagnosed, di ba? So how did your family take it? What was the involvement of your family in the process of the diagnosis, and at the same time until you got diagnosed? Like yung pagkatapos na ma-diagnose ka, how what was their involvement with that?
At first my mom was my second opinion, but then when I got that, she was like, okay, what do you want to do about it now? It just I have to I have to I need your support, ma. I told her that. And ayun, she was very supportive ever since, kasi recently when the pandemic started, I didn't know what to do. I was really affected with everything in social media, to the point na after nung 5-month break, she asked me if I still want to do I still want to continue, or do you want an LOA? And of course I chose the LOA. It was really heavy for me kasi recently lang din I had an attempt, and ever since nun she really took it to herself to monitor me every time. It's a really scary thing, pero I'm glad na she understands na, and that she's there for me, and I'm happy for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Lou. Like, I know probably that it was really something personal, but it was brave of you to share it. And I hope that parents are actually hearing this. I mean, with us broadcasting this podcast. If not, I hope the students would be able to actually have their parents hear this afterwards, or kahit i-replay nyo. Because mental health nga is a health issue talaga. Hindi natin siya nakikita, just like what Ma'am Rachel mentioned a while ago. And with the examples that we have shared kanina, wala tayong tool, wala tayong equipment to immediately tell and to confirm that a person is having is mentally ill at the moment. But as parents, as probably people are looking after you, yung tawag dito. Sorry, I'm lost for words. Not ano to? Cut tayo doon, Nicole.
Guardian.
Ikaw na ba? Ha? Ayun, guardians.
Guardian.
Ayan. Parents are the guardians, 'di ba? They have to see more from the physical need. Hindi lang basta nilalagyan niyo ng hindi lang basta naglalatag or nagpe-prepare kahit naglalatag ng pagkain to make sure that your kids are having healthy food every after their online classes, and they are sleeping well, nasa loob sila ng kwarto nagpapahinga. There's more to that. That's physical health that we're looking into, but there's also mental health that we should also consider. Diba? So I hope again, parents, guardians, hello sa inyo, shoutout sa inyo. Ayan. Last but not the least, ito question natin. And partly we have already touched this, but I would like to hear more from you. Do you think, ayan, with our administration, this could be just within our school, or basically our government is doing enough prioritization when it comes to mental health for its we have faculty, we have staff, students, or even the entire community. Let's start with Ali at this point.
My answer for this would be very subjective. I think the administration, parang they are doing something when it comes to mental health. However, it's not their priority right now. Because I want to acknowledge also them giving us academic breaks after exams, diba? However, for me, I don't want to just rely lang on the administration. Because I feel like when it comes to mental health or taking care of your mental health, it is a collective effort. So, hindi lang siya nanggagaling sa administration or kung anong gagawin ng mga nasa taas. We also have to do something for ourselves. Like, hindi lang pwede na parang iaasa na lang natin lahat, ganyan. So, for me, I try to take an action din. Kasi, come to think of it, what if prioritize nga siya, pero you're not on this, wala ka sa side ng receiving area. Like, you don't want to receive the help coming or support, diba? So, if, kung gusto natin na to improve our mental health, ayun nga, like what I've mentioned, it should be a collective effort. We should also help ourselves then.
Thank you very much, Ali. Lou, how about you?
I also agree with Ali, but also looking at no, I mean in other countries they really do put mental health dun sa list na pinaprioritize. Kasi how can you function as a person if you're not thinking about your mental health, if you're not talking about it? Kaya, what's this? People have their psychologists. They can easily and readily talk to them so that they can function as a human being. They can function as an individual in the society. And of course, andun yung efforts mo as a person, kasi it's always good na time and how you're going to handle a situation.
Thank you, Lou. How about you, Fran?
I agree with what Ali and Ate Lu said about um yeah. I think the admin, as what Ali said, it's not a priority, but we thank them for giving academic grades. So I think the mental health support system of the admin is still in its early stages. We're still adapting to the, especially ngayon online, what if physical pa, iba na yung support system natin. And I think that we should have various support systems from different places. So we're not just relying on one system. Kasi what if that system fails? We need to do something to keep ourselves stable then. So that sustainable yung mental health natin.
Thank you very much. And of course, ma'am. Ayan.
Okay, so being part of the administration, because I'm a faculty, my answer is this. Comes to administrative level kasi it's more of a macro scale. They look at it in a perspective na, alam niyo yun, bird's eye view. The priority of the administration is to keep it together as an institution, as an educational institution. We acknowledge the struggles that most of us are going through, especially with the shift to blended learning, and that it's so sudden, not just for the students but also for faculty members. Pero the point is, we have to somehow make it work, diba? It is better to make adjustments like that rather than ceasing yung entire operation ng education system. That's not good at all kapag ka nagkaroon ng academic freeze, 'di ba? Especially for other students kasi syempre sayang yung panahon. So I think that's the priority of the administration, no? To put things together, to have a stable foundation that despite this pandemic and all of its challenges, diba, the educational institution is still surviving. So that, alam niyo yun, para yung mga students, they would still learn. We understand how difficult it is to learn sa ganitong klaseng online setup. It's really challenging, no? Pero yun kasi yung nagiging priority nila, macro scale. Now, saan papasok yung mental health, no? It's on a smaller scale, micro scale. Ito yung role ng faculty. It is the role of every faculty, no, to somehow look after the students' mental health. That means, alam niyo yun, managing the schedule, managing the workload that you give to the students so that they wouldn't feel so burdened every week na ang dami-daming pinagagawa. So yun. So that's one way a faculty member can, alam niyo yun, look after the mental health of the students. So that nandun tayo sa micro scale. Every faculty member, must have this obligation, parang obligation and desire as well to promote mental health din. Diba? So, I understand na feeling nyo it's not a priority. It depends on the level. Okay? The administration, no, a priority nila is to, alam nyo, to stabilize the educational sector. Pero yung individual faculty, apart from being able to deliver the materials during class, no, isa din sa dapat binibigyan nila ng pansin yung mental health. So sa amin talaga yun manggagaling, sa aming mga you cannot expect it from the president, the chancellor, di ba? Madalas we are looking forward to class suspensions kapag may, like for example, kapag may typhoon, ganyan. Pero di ba, sometimes there are professors na kahit walang class suspension, they will be considerate enough na sasabihin nilang, since the weather is not good at this part of the country, I decided not to conduct my synchronous class because it will be very difficult, especially if you will be experiencing unstable internet connection or power interruption in your area. So, faculty members do have their discretion pa din naman. And I hope, no, at their level, they still do things na for the benefit of everyone's mental health din. So yun yung yun yung level kasi talaga ng ng prioritization eh. Hindi manggagaling yan sa higher ups. We can do something on our part to somehow be able to somehow be able to put a priority on mental health kasi importante din talaga.
Fair enough. And tama yun, ma'am. Actually, there are some even professors that whenever it's exam week or even prior to exam week, ganyan, and they know that the students have been preparing so much or have prepared so much for the exam. Sometimes pagkatapos ng exam or bago mag-exam, pag medyo covered na yung mga bagay-bagay, some of the professors, they would just really let the students have, own time, me time muna kayo. So just you can have your cameras off, and if you want to take a rest, eat if you haven't eaten yet, sleep kung gusto niyo, because we know you actually have, you have nagising kayo ng maaga just for this quiz, ganyan, or exam. Meron din naman and we are grateful for that, ma'am, for our professors who have been doing that. Pero ma'am, if you don't mind me asking, since you are the ones who are, sabi niyo nga, kumbaga kayo yung nagpo-provide nun, you're part of the system that makes sure that the students are getting it. Pero if you don't mind me asking, ma'am, on your end as a staff of the administration, the faculty, are you getting it? Are you getting the mental health help that you should be getting on your level?
For the UE community, yes. Yes. In fact, it's a very healthy working environment. Nandun yung hierarchy, and people are readily available whenever you need help on something. So that's what I could commend when it comes to the administration naman ng UE. Because I've been with other institutions. This is the best institution that I've been with. So in terms of sa level ko mismo, I think there's a reason why people stay in UE. My aunt, I don't know if you know Ma'am Maris.
From admin po. From register
She's
po.
my aunt.
Oh. Kilala po
Yes.
namin si Ma'am Maris lahat. Kilala namin siya.
Tita ko yun, si Ma'am Maris, and she's been with the institution for 25 years. And she's been with UE for a reason. Kasi nga, di ba, they take care of their people talaga. And even ako, I've only been with UE for 2 years pa lang, pero I have seen the difference already when it comes to how they do things, and when it comes to how they delegate tasks. Hindi ka naman nila talaga bibigyan ng workload that is impossible for you to accomplish at a certain time. So I really commend yung system ng UE when it comes to handling their staff. Readily available sila whenever you need to talk to yun sila. Dr. Chu, the academic head, and also si Dean, and then even yung staff, yan sila Ma'am Julie, Magat, yan. So yun. Even my aunt, siguro you've already experienced her assistance, especially during enrollment. So yun.
Grabe ang assistance ni Ma'am Maris. As in, grabe. Hands-on. Kumbaga, if there is a word to be used lang sa kung gaano ka assistive si ma'am sa enrollment. It's hands-on. Yun, ganun ka ano si ma'am, ka-helpful si ma'am. Di ba, Lu? Ayan, kilala ni Lu yan for sure si Ma'am Maris, di ba? Ayan. So, ayan, thank you very much, guys. This has been a very productive conversation with everyone. So, probably I would just be asking each one of you final words regarding the topic that we just have right now, which is, again, mental health awareness. Let's start with Lu.
Such a big thing to be seen with something like my mental illness to be, you know, which is unseen to be seen by you guys, and it's really nice to have someone to talk to about it and to discuss about it. So thank you, and thank you very much, everyone. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you very much, Lu, and welcome. Fran, how about you?
First of all, thank you for having me on this podcast, and I commend the work that you've been doing to raise mental health awareness, and I hope that this reaches the people, and I hope it helps at least one, and it helps the UE community take care of their mental health.
Thanks, Fran. Ali?
And then I just want to thank you guys and honor you really for creating this space for everyone. And also I hope na this podcast will reach the right people. And ayun then, thank you so much for not just raising awareness. Kasi awareness is something, but it's not everything. You guys are really taking an action to parang give us a platform wherein we can speak ourselves and where we can share our our opinions and what we feel. So yun po. Thank you then for having me here.
You're welcome. And thank you very much again for accepting our invitation. And of course, Ma'am Rachel, ayan.
Yeah, thank you as well for the opportunity for me to be able to share my thoughts regarding mental health. I've often told my students that it's actually my advocacy, mental health, and be able to talk about it. And now that we have already discussed majority of the topics that concerns mental health, I just want to emphasize two things. No? One, talk about it. And if you're the one on the receiving end, be able to be open to listening. So yun, I think that's the best way to do our part when it comes to mental health promotion. No? Talk about your problems, and if you're on the receiving end, be open to listening and acknowledge other people's mental health concerns. So yun lang.
Thank you very much, Ma'am. And again, to all our guests, thank you very much for the time that you have shared to us, the inputs, the experiences, okay, that you also shared to our episode for today. And mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. That's why mental health should be given the same importance as we give to our physical health. Kaya naman, ayan. So that ends our podcast for this episode. And do catch us in our next episode. But for now, this has been James Helting for UADSC's podcast series. Wishing you all peace, happiness, and love. Bye, guys.